I'm just gonna wait for Evan to come back over.
Sure, sure. How you doing, honey?
Good. Was your day good?
Yeah, I played cards with a friend who's just learning, and then we went out for lunch. We wanted to go to a lobster place, but it was closed, so we went to a Thai place. It was good.
Okay. That's good.
Point out that this is her seat, Evan.
Hi,
Why are you sitting over there?
Where do you want me to sit?
There's a chair right next to
Over
me.
here in front?
Evan.
I imagine this in person, but oh well.
Our flight still hasn't taken off.
Be okay.
Ha ha ha! And then it's going to be canceled.
Yes,
you know what's going to happen?
they're going to
All
end
right.
up canceling it.
Yeah. Thank you for checking. Do you know how many cases there are every day down here?
Probably a lot.
A lot.
236,000 in Florida.
That's a lot.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. New York is a lot.
When you come down, I want it to be fun. I want to go out and have, go to nice restaurants and do fun things. So.
Cool.
Are you feeling anything or?
Oh, no. Grandpa only had a cough. He doesn't have COVID. So.
Yeah. And yeah, no, I mean, so we and also mom kind of just had the idea like that there were some things like she didn't know about like your childhood and stuff, and then we started thinking, well, we don't know this and this, and we kind of wanted to just like
we want to have things on.
We want to talk about it and see what it was. And what,
okay, and if I don't remember, I'll ask one of my sisters. My sister Doris remembers everything in my life.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I never showed you. She just wrote a 2-page, one line each, and one line filled one page and another page of things that she remembers about my life. I will share that with you. I will scan it and send it to you because she remembers more than I do.
Yeah, when we're done, that'd be cool.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I don't know. The one thing mom just came up with was like, what was your earliest memory? I don't know why.
Okay. My earliest memory was kindergarten. I think you remember the things that were shocking to you. I remember sitting in a chair and I told the kid next to me to stop making noise. And the teacher thought that I was talking out of turn, so she yelled at me.
Oh, it's so sad.
I remember that to this day.
Oh no.
Yeah. That's my earliest memory.
Do you know who that person, the one who was actually talking about? No,
of course not.
I don't know. Just curious. All right. And what was like your relationship with your grandparents? Like.
Okay, certainly not like yours or mine.
Very different time.
My grandparents lived in Brooklyn, and we lived in Queens. We would certainly visit on my father's day off. He would sometimes drive into Brooklyn, and once in a while, I guess my grandparents would come to our house, especially on holidays, like Passover.
Yes. So the big Jewish holidays.
I know I loved my grandfather very much. I thought he was my favorite relative. Why, I don't know. I guess he just thought I was smart and he liked me.
That's always nice.
I do remember that when Grandpa and I got engaged and I called my grandparents up, and then I said, well, I'm coming over to introduce you to I just got engaged and I want you to meet Dennis. Yeah. As soon as we got there, my grandmother had a 4-course meal waiting for us.
Wow.
So that's my grandmother, typical.
On which side?
Okay, that's my father's side. Now, on my mother's side, my mother's mother died when she was 16. And she had a terrible relationship with her father. Her father was a womanizer. And in fact, it was kind of shocking to me when you came up with one of those logs about from the census that said that in the last time that it was taken, when my grandmother on that side was alive, she was divorced. So this is something my mother never told us, that her parents divorced. I just knew that she hated her father. And for most of my life, she didn't talk to him. And then one day when I was about 13 or 14, she reconciled with her father. Her father had remarried.
Yeah.
And we took my parents and my sisters and I took a road trip down to Georgia where we met my grandfather. So I really had no relationship with him.
Slightly happy ending though, kind of at the end.
Yeah, at least my mother reconciled with her father.
Nice. Yeah, that's very different than us.
Yes.
Very, very different, kind of. All right, so I'll loop back around to, you said the kindergarten memory. So like, do you remember who your favorite teacher, not just elementary school, but just kind of like someone who stood out to you?
Yes, first of all, I loved my elementary school teachers and they loved me. I was teacher's pet. My sixth grade, I was a good student, and my sixth grade teacher actually gave me, I think it was like a dictionary or something that I kept for a very long time until I left the house in Cheshire. Some of my, so I think I had wonderful teachers. I had a wonderful junior high school experience. My teachers were great. In high school, I had really wonderful teachers. And the teachers in college, I was one of 20,000 students. So I really didn't have a strong relationship with any of my teachers. There's one teacher who really didn't like me. I was a girl and I was an accounting major. And he actually announced at the beginning of class that he would never give me an A.
I think you told me that story at one
point.
Like he just said that just because you were.
Yeah. Well, I showed them. I passed the CPA exam, and
Good job. Do you want to ask about her summers?
One of the questions that we were asking everybody, Mom wanted to know, what were your summers like? Did you do the same thing each summer?
What did you do for fun? My parents didn't have a lot of money. I looked forward to 2 weeks of the summer going to Girl Scout camp for about 4 or 5 years in a row. And it was a wonderful experience. We would take the city bus into Manhattan, and we'd get on a bus and go up to Bear Mountains. I know where, I loved Girl Scout camp. We would sleep, we would all have to have a poncho and make our own bedrolls. And everybody had a job to do. Either you were in the kitchen or you cleaned the latrines or something, and we would go on hikes. And I loved it until one year my little sister Doris ruined it for me.
What'd she do?
Paula and I always went for these 2 weeks, but the first year that Doris went, she was homesick. So I kept getting called out to comfort her. But I won't ever let her forget that. But other than that, those 2 weeks was wonderful. It was completely different from Tammy's experience when she went to a pampered Jewish camp where they did laundry. We did our own laundry. Other than that, what we did all summer was ride bikes. I could ride a bike 5 miles away to the city line and back again.
Like with your friends and stuff?
Yeah, with my friends. We did roller skating, and if it rained, no big deal. I just played with my friends.
Cool. Do you remember like having like one best friend out of that group?
Oh yeah. In fact, I mentioned it to somebody the other day, Judy Gross. Judy Gross lived 2 doors down from me. All right. We were best friends. Unfortunately, her mother died of breast cancer early on. And we were best friends until 6th grade. But then I made the SP, which meant that I was going on a fast track to junior high, and she didn't. And that kind of spoiled our relationship because I got to high school before she did. And then I think Norma Koblenz took over. So in junior high school, I met Norma, and Norma and I are friends to this day. Norma was a bridesmaid at my wedding. And even though we are 180-degree different, absolute different people, politically, our approach to everything is different. She's a New York City teacher with strong democratic liberal values. All right. And she once said to me, we always, she always envisioned me as a career woman without a family, and she always envisioned herself married with kids. Well, she never got married and she never had kids.
And you
And I did.
Yeah.
That always surprises her. To this day, I stay in touch. We stay in touch. And we used to go away a lot together. So.
Nice. Full circle there. Yeah.
Okay.
The neighborhood.
So some historical things that we want to know if you remember. Oh, which one? Did I skip one?
So
I skipped one.
Well, kind of still like how you said you rode bikes around and just, went out wherever. Mom was wondering what the earliest, I guess, neighborhood you lived in was kind of like, and then what your neighborhood in Queens was like. Like just.
I was born in Brooklyn. My parents took me out at 6 months old. So the only neighborhood I knew was
you don't remember.
170th Street. And some of the other things that we did, there was a World's Fair in New York, and they left this building when the World's Fair, ended, and they made it a roller skating rink and an ice skating rink. And for a quarter, you could rent skates and skate. So sometimes most of the time we would ice skate there because we could roller skate on the street.
Yeah.
I do remember that there was an alley behind my house, and we would roller skate up and down the alley. And at the end of my street was a house that had a garage that had kind of a little hill going into it. So we would always roller skate into there unless the people were home, and because they didn't like that very much at all.
That's nice. Okay, so
which one? We're skipping. Which one?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, so again, so one of the historical things that we want to know if you ever heard about from your parents specifically is did they ever talk about the Holocaust?
No. First of all, my great-grandparents came over. So for me, there wasn't personal at all. For Grandpa, it was. I mean, he has relatives in Israel, and but no, I didn't know anything special. We never talked about anything. My parents and I never talked about anything. They never. Okay.
Yeah,
they didn't know when I graduated from college, from high school, that I applied to college. They didn't ask me what my plans were. They never knew when I got my doctorate degree. They loved me very much. I know they did, but they just never got involved with any of my personal decisions.
Was that only you, or was that also your sisters?
You'll have to ask them. They were more involved in both my sisters' life because one, Doris, you're not going to show this to her, right? Doris was a very, really, I mean, you have to cut this out if it goes, Doris was a very anxious child. And so they had to deal with her anxiety. And my sister Paula didn't have a social life at all. She was overweight and she wasn't good at school. So they gave her the attention that parents would. They took her, both of them, to whatever resources that would help them. So I kind of got left out. And I remember.
No, and you just kind of did. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, first of all, I was very capable. At the age of 13, I started working next door for the accountant, so I had my own money. My sisters were very jealous. How come you have money, Ann, and they don't? All right. Why? Because you know who I am. I just go do things to get the things that I want. And my sisters would say, "Oh, poor me. We don't have any money." Well, they didn't go out to work. And so from the time I was 13, I was always quite independent. And I'll share with you this story, that when I got to college and I wanted a job, I got a job at a department store that required me to take a bus and a train to a major station and then a train to a local station. And I would work from 6 to 9 at night. And I would be the person that takes the clothes from the dressing room and hang them up. Okay. Yeah. First week, my arms hurt because that's when you're not used to doing that.
Yep.
And then I'm standing on this lonely train station at 10 o'clock at night. And I'm saying to myself, why aren't my parents telling me that I shouldn't be here? Fortunately for me, I had the good sense. I quit and I got a different job. But,
good for you.
So, that's the way things were. But I was always capable, so I can't complain.
I think we're seeing some similarities between you and your sisters and the three of us.
Exactly, Matthew. You're the middle child? Are you the middle child?
Yes, I know it's rhetorical.
Okay?
Yes.
Yes, and you're the
Has to
one
be
that doesn't
true.
need any attention. And one day I once actually told my mother, I said, don't you think I have problems? You know, and right. Parents give the kids, their attention when they need help, and I didn't.
That is it. That is very interesting to just hear that. Let's just stay on topic of childhood stuff. Yeah. So, well, so you didn't really talk with your parents much, but who taught you how to drive?
Oh, okay.
How did that happen?
Boyfriends. I had a boyfriend. It wasn't really a boy. He was a friend that was a boy. You see, because I wasn't 18 yet, I couldn't drive within the city limits. So I had to get friends to, again, most of my friends were boys that would take me out of the city, and I would learn in a parking lot. All right.
You were popular you were very popular.
Thank goodness I was popular, because when I took my driving test, my father wouldn't give me his car. I rented a car. Didn't I tell you I failed my first driving test? Because it wasn't automatic, and I didn't know how to, drive it, but he wouldn't give me his car. But these friends would. And in fact, while I was learning, oh my God, I remember being at Queens College, and this boyfriend, again, not a romantic, he was a friend, and he let me drive his car, and I backed out of a parking space and I dented his car. Not badly, but again, I had a job, I had a checkbook, so I just gave him a check and I said, I'm sorry, and that was that.
Never drove with him again.
He really liked me.
What was dating like? So you just said you have a lot of friends who are boys. Well, a lot of friends who are boys, and that's how you learn to drive and stuff. What was dating like for you, though? Like, this was from Mom, by the way. She wanted to know this. She was specifically wondering.
I don't want to sound too conceited, but I had more boyfriends than girlfriends. All right, I was cute, I was smart, I was attractive, and I was a good kid, and so I would have a date on Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday afternoon.
Every day. There you go. Cool. Yeah. And you're just like, I don't know.
Go to the movies. Usually go to the movies. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, here's some kind of Jewish related questions. Okay. Did you get presents for Hanukkah when you were younger, or at any point that you can remember?
I don't remember. I truly don't remember. I'm gonna have to ask my sisters. I don't think we got presents.
Okay. Well, and something else. Do you know if anyone in the family kept kosher or kept Shabbat,
Not in my family. Grandpa's family, Aunt Arlene, kept kosher for a while because Sydney grew up in a kosher home. But you have to remember, my father went to yeshiva, and when he had 3 daughters, he basically wipes his hands out of the religion. I mean, we had Passover, and celebrated Hanukkah. Yeah. It was only because we lived in Queens that there was such a Jewish population, and the schools were closed on holidays. And I would go with my friends from one temple to another, in the neighborhood to say hello, to each other. And when I was in, I think, junior high school, I wanted to join the youth group because that's where my friends were. So I pleaded with my father to join the temple just so that I could be in the youth group. And he did it for a year. But I don't know Hebrew. I always resented not knowing Hebrew. I go into a temple and I can't follow, all the rituals that, and I can't read Hebrew.
I did not know that.
Which is why your parent, are you still there?
Yeah.
It froze.
It froze, but I could still hear you. The video may come back.
Is there a problem? Because you kind of froze.
I don't know, but I could still hear you for now. It may come back in a second.
Oh, okay, we're back. Can you hear me now? You kind of froze.
Oh, yeah, we're good.
You froze for a minute.
Okay. I don't know why the camera is all weird, but
okay, you just froze. That's what I. So how do I get?
Okay, well, we're still here.
Okay, cancel. So chat. Okay, close the chat. All right, I'm still here. So in terms of religion, that's why it was very important to me that both your mom and Tammy go to Hebrew school, know what, be comfortable in a temple.
Cool.
But I knew I was Jewish, and I only dated Jewish guys. But that's because the neighborhood was Jewish.
Yeah.
That wasn't a rule that you only had to date Jewish guys.
No, not at all.
Do you want?
Oh, sure, I'll do that.
Go for it.
So,
I don't know who thought.
I'll ask. So your father smoked, and your sister later smoked.
And my mother smoked as an adult.
Was there a reason you never got into smoking?
I never did anything wrong. I never smoked. I never did drugs to this day.
So even when you
never got drunk.
That was just the way you wanted.
Even when you were a kid, did you know that smoking was bad?
No. I mean, we lived in a little house. I hated the smoke. My father chain smoked. I couldn't stand it.
Oh, okay. You just did, yeah. So it just didn't.
And I wasn't with a group of friends that said, try it, Ann, try it. All my friends were smart, good Jewish friends. All right. We didn't need to do that to have
fun. Still childhood stuff. Did you have any major childhood fears that you remember? I don't know. Some kids are afraid of heights when they're little, and I was afraid of heights when I was little.
No, not as a kid. I think more when I'm growing up, I don't like to be alone. I don't like to do things alone. Wouldn't like to go to the store by myself.
Yeah. Okay. Because I mean, you have your schedule every day filled now, pretty much. And that makes
I hate to be home. I like to be with people. I don't like to be alone.
Very extrovert. And then I think one more. Wait. Say, what was the first? Ask whatever.
What was the first movie you remember seeing?
Oh, I don't know. I can tell you the first Broadway play I saw was Little Abner. That was with my Girl Scout troop. We all stole Girl Scout cookies, and then we got tickets to the play. You see, seeing a play on Broadway was a big deal.
Yeah.
I remember the movie with Moses in it, that was on a big screen in Manhattan. Yeah. But I don't remember any other movie when I was a kid.
Do you remember any TV or radio shows though?
Sure. Howdy Doody. I remember Howdy Doody. And I know that I was on a television show that was like Howdy Doody or Howdy Doody. I have to ask my sisters that. We went. It was very easy in New York to be part of the audience of a TV show. And I know one time I know I sat in the front of a TV show like Howdy Doody, but I don't think it was Howdy Doody. It was something like that. I watched Leave It to Beaver.
Were you in the audience or were you participating in the show?
Well, the kids were part of the show. The kids were in this little stadium seating, and the host would be sitting in the middle of the front row. But I don't remember what show it was.
Okay. Interesting. Cool. I'm gonna have to try. I want to figure out what that was now.
I'm gonna have to ask my sisters if they remember.
Did you have any celebrities that you really liked growing up?
I loved Ricky Nelson, the singer, right? And in fact, when your parents threw a party for me and they had questions for my friends that had to answer, all right? Yeah. And one of the questions was who was my favorite singer? And they all knew it was Ricky Nelson.
That was common knowledge.
Were there famous people that you ever met?
Besides going on the TV show?
No, I don't think I ever met anybody famous.
Okay. So here's one that we actually missed. we asked you before who taught you to drive. Do you know who taught you how to ride a bike?
I'm going to assume it's my father, but I don't know.
Okay. You want to ask all the historical stuff
Sure.
now?
So some historical questions that I was more wondering. What do you remember, or what were your thoughts about the JFK assassination?
Oh, I cried. It was so sad. I remember the day that he was assassinated. It was one of the saddest days in U.S. history. He was a beloved president, young.
All right, I was going to say, do you know how you heard about that? Like, do you remember anything about that day, or just that you were so sad?
No, the only day that I remember is the day the Twin Towers came down. I was in my house and watching TV, and I remember Shelley was in the house with me, and we turned on, we watched in horror, absolute horror.
I don't even know what to ask for that. Yeah. Okay, let's get off that topic for a second. I know I've asked you this before, so I think I know the answer. You don't remember much segregation up in the north, right?
No, there wasn't any at all. Well, that's not true. Okay, my high school covered the wealthiest Jewish neighborhood where Norma lived, because her father was a doctor. Okay, my neighborhood, which was mixed Italian and Jews, but all white. And then it covered Jamaica, which was significantly Black. Now, in my high school, we had the same percentage of Blacks that were in Queens were in my high school, but I never saw one in my class, because we were always in like the AP classes, and they were always in the classes that were more oriented towards some kind of occupation thing. So, right, but there was no, I didn't see any blatant discrimination. If you were on a train, you would see Black people. All right, but there weren't a lot in my neighborhood. But if you saw one, I wouldn't go gasping, thinking that someone was going to attack me or anything. That New York was a melting pot. You'd see everybody. Yeah.
Do you remember the Martin Luther King Jr. speech at all, or do you remember hearing about it? I guess.
I certainly remember the speech. Yeah.
You watch it?
Huh?
Did you watch it?
I don't know.
On TV?
Did you?
I most probably did. I have a dream.
Not a big standout moment.
No.
Okay.
Did you watch the moon landing?
Yes, and I know exactly where I was at the time.
Where were you?
It was we were in Jersey.
Okay.
And we were celebrating your mother's birthday. Was it in July? Did it happen in July?
I'll quickly check. Okay. I don't know.
So tell me when it was, because it was either Tammy's birthday or Sandy's birthday.
It was July.
July 20th.
Yes.
So,
all right.
Sandy.
My family was in New Jersey, and it was your mother's birthday. And I bet she was 3 years old. So is it 67? Is it 1970?
It was 69.
Okay, so she's 2 years old, and Tammy was born, and we were all in Jersey watching it.
You remember what any people's thoughts were about it? Was everybody excited? Was it like a build-up?
It was amazing. Yes, it was an amazing feat for us to do that. You have to remember, I grew up the Russian Sputnik, where Russia was way ahead of us on the space program. So for us to have this accomplishment was amazing. I also grew up, and you should know, with the Cold War. There was a couple of years there we thought for sure Russia was going to drop bombs on us, and every kid in school had to learn how to get under a desk or go into the hallway.
Duck and cover?
Yeah.
Do you remember your family being worried about stuff like that?
Okay, so now I'm going to tell you the meanest thing I ever did to my sister Doris.
Oh no. I know
we were at the skating rink doing the World's Fair, and we had to walk over like a meadow to get to the bus to come home. And I remember walking with her. I think my father was there that day, but I am not sure. And I saw a plane, and I told my sister to duck, the Russians are coming. she ran for the fell down.
Yeah.
And it was very mean. It was very mean. I'm not usually that mean to my sisters. In fact,
No.
anything, Paula and Doris were very close together because they spent a lot of time at home, and I spent a lot of time away. So I didn't usually do mean things, but I don't know what came over me that day.
That was a unique moment.
Yeah.
Living as a Jew in Texas.
Oh, do you remember how you felt, or was there any interesting things about living in Texas, being Jewish? Especially in that time?
When, do the first part of your question.
So we were just wondering if living in Texas and being Jewish, like, if, there was any fears or anyone,
No, exactly. The first day that we got there, we went to a temple because we wanted to live in a Jewish neighborhood. Yeah. And the people embraced us. Somebody took us around, and we found an apartment, and across in the next apartment, we could see them, catty corner from us, was a Jewish couple that became our friends. And for Passover, the first Passover that we were there, that other person's family owned like a big department store, like Saks Fifth Avenue or something else like that. And we got invited to that person's house for Passover. She must have had 40 or 50 people there.
Oh, wow. They took from the department store. That's cool.
Yeah.
The internet.
Oh, what were your first thoughts about the internet?
Oh, let me go back. The only time that I felt concerned that I was Jewish was when I just got married and I started my job to work for this big accounting firm. And I got married in August. We went down there first week in September, and I had to ask for the Jewish holidays off. And the answer for now remember, I was the first woman in this department, and they didn't know I was Jewish with a last name like Rich,
Yeah, not really.
And the manager said to me, okay, we may be ready for a Jew, but not a Black person yet. They could say things like that in those days.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so I didn't, the more times I was discriminated against in my career because I was a woman than because I was Jewish.
That was a lot there. Okay. So I guess staying along or moving, I don't know. What did you think about like the internet? Like 80s, 90s.
Oh, I embraced it. Very early on, I was the first one at Quinnipiac University to use Blackboard in my class. And there was another colleague, a younger woman, who also used it. And so, to integrate it first by just putting a syllabus up, and then PowerPoints up, and then voiceover PowerPoints. And the two of us were the first accounting people to create an online course for the school. All right, so I was ahead of most business teachers when it came to the internet, because I just embraced it as a wonderful teaching tool.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, very related to like your teaching profession.
Yeah.
Not really like, I don't know. Do you see anything else besides these two?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was curious, why did you get into like Chinese things and like China, and because okay.
Quinnipiac University is a small school. Now it's a medium-sized school, but when I started, it was considered a small private school. Okay. And the president of our institution felt that we needed to internationalize the curriculum somehow, and so he really had wonderful leadership skills, even though he was mean to me at the end. He basically looked around for a few schools that we could a few international schools that we could partner with. And there was a woman, Della Li Lian, in my school, clearly Chinese, all right? She grew up in Taiwan and came over to the United States, and her degree was in computer science. And she had maintained a relationship with the school that I ultimately went over and taught at. And so she introduced the president of Quinnipiac to the president of that school. Shang Shui Yuan. It wasn't Beijing University, because Beijing University is equivalent to Harvard, but we called it BIB, Beijing Institute of Business. And we were similar schools, small, second tier schools. And after the presidents came back and forth, then for the next 2 years, there was a group of 3 faculty from their school that came to Quinnipiac. And we had a house for them. Yeah. They stayed for 3 or 4 months. And in each one of those groups, there was an accounting professor. So I got to know the accounting professor. The first one didn't speak a lot of English. The second one, his English was much better. And I was fascinated by this because China was opening its doors economically to the West. And they were creating the accounting profession. They were creating the law profession. So for me, this was an area of interest because of my teaching. And I could do some research, about how Chinese accounting standards were developed. I've actually wrote several papers on it. So those first 2 years that the 3 faculty members came over to us, none of us wanted to go over there. It was right after Tiananmen Square. We were terrified of going, but we went. So they negotiated, instead of 3 faculty members going over, we had a group of about 8 students and 4 faculty members who went over for a 2 or 3 week period. Now, that was such an unusual opportunity that I took your mother, okay? Yep. Another faculty member took his son, all right? A third faculty member took his son. So 3 of the 8 students were our kids, because this was just an extraordinary opportunity to get inside of China. Yeah. And you can ask your mom, when we got there were guards with guns. We were told not to leave without, their permission. And of course, your mother made me go. She wanted to see Tiananmen Square at night without any escort. Oh my God, this was the scariest thing for me. We got in a cab and we went to Tiananmen Square, and the cab driver, knowing, because there were very few Westerners there, he stayed with us. We walked around and he waited until we got home to, he took us home to make sure that we could get home. Yes, your mother made me do that. So after 2 trips like that, going over, I was comfortable enough. I knew what the school was like. And the third faculty member who came over, his English was extraordinary. It was really, really good. And this was an opportunity for me. Again, I was doing research on international accounting issues. And so there weren't many people who had an inside track into what China was doing. And so after 2 or 3 years, I had a sabbatical. And I said, I'm ready to go over. So I went over for a semester. It was the most, what can I tell you? It was the best experience of my life. It made such an impact on me. It just changed my whole life.
And that's kind of how you learn, at least to read.
While you were there? So before I left, I wanted to learn Chinese. Yeah. And I contacted a professor at Yale. And I learned conversational Chinese by listening to tapes. All right. So when I got there, I could introduce myself in Chinese. I could say a few words. I didn't teach in Chinese, but the first week there were 2 other faculty members there that semester. And because I knew a little Chinese, the first night we had like a banquet with the president, we were honorary guests. And the president turns to me and says, tomorrow at this orientation, it's like, when freshmen come in and there's a big orientation of 300 students and the president's going to welcome them. He said, Anne, you're going to represent the 3 international teachers to welcome them. Okay. Yeah. Good thing there's a 12-hour difference between China and the United States. So I called my Chinese, I wrote out a script. I contacted my professor and I said, this is what I'm going to say. And do I have the inflection right? Because if you just go, in China, it's a completely different word. And so I delivered the welcome speech in Chinese.
Wow. And it went smoothly? Like,
yes, it did.
Got it?
Yes, it did. Cool. It was short. It was short, but
very impressive. I was always wondering, like, why Chinese? Like, why? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just fortuitous that Ricky had, found that it was the right time at the right place, and I had the opportunity to do it.
All right.
Were there any other things that you thought we never knew that I don't know?
Well, actually, here's one. I think we went through all like the historical stuff that we were curious about. Just jump back for I think like 2 kind of childhood questions, and then I don't think we
go ahead.
Did you keep a diary? That was Mom's question. And this, if you don't want to answer, just say next question.
I'm not sure. I might have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We don't have it.
Cool.
What was the other question?
What piece is it?
Oh yeah.
Do you want?
All right. What piece of advice for life would you give Mom or us?
Your children or grandchildren.
I think this is a consistent that I message. Don't worry about the past. Whatever happens, you can't change it. Think about what you want today and your goals and how you're going to get there.
Nice. Anything?
No, I think
that was pretty much.
That was good.
That was a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. A lot of the childhood stuff came from Mom, because she was like, I know, she was like, yes. I know so much about her now, but I didn't know about this thing during your childhood.
Yeah.
And then we were just curious about some of the historical stuff.
I am going to scan what my sister wrote about me as a child. Yes. And obviously they all have to do with interactions with her. It's hysterical. It's so funny.
We'll read it. Sure.
Okay.
How long is it? Is it like
2 pages? 2 pages.
Oh, okay.
Not that long. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. We will get Grandpa on Zoom, but I don't want to go over, right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did talk to him.
Yeah. So he's alive and well.
Yes. He went out to get medicine. Apparently, it sounds like he's been asleep all day.
Yeah. Okay.
But yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. I can only say that I love the relationship that we have with you guys. It means a lot to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And in fact, I think David called while I was in the car with my friend Marilyn, and she has a daughter, but no grandchildren. So she said something about, she has granddogs, but they're not as, it's not as good as having a grandchild.
Oh, well.
Can't argue with that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you. You make us feel very special and loved. All right. So my wish for you is to both of you and everybody in the family have a great year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good rest of the night. Love you.
Bye-bye.
No, wait.
You wait.